Welcome to Ridge Planning's 16th, 2000. Roll call, please, Kelly.
I'm right here. Actually, I'm just waiting for it to unmute. Okay.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Sorry. No, it's okay. Member Gustafson seems to not be here, so we're just going to cross her out. Member Kerala,
Present.
Member Sigety,
Present.
Vice Chair Khalil, Chair Ferber.
Here, pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands.
Okay. Gentlemen, any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? Okay. No? Okay, great. We'll open up the floor to public comment, please.
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. I won't take long.
Wait.
Oh.
Approval of what? Okay, excuse me, approve the agenda. Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, now is it okay?
Yeah, you're good now.
Your comments wouldn't count it.
I know they don't count now anyway. Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up, which only will take a minute or two, is that a fellow came into the commission meeting, the last meeting, and lived next to or near two vacant lots that are sort of pie-shaped with a seawall. And he wanted to form a not-for-profit entity to purchase them and ask for a conservation easement. The problem with that was that it would take both those properties off the tax rolls. So and there wouldn't be public access like in downtown Palm Beach. The little park there that's Pan's Garden. You can go and park on the street and walk into this natural area park, which is privately owned by a foundation. Anyway, I got to thinking about the policy or direction. We don't want to take plotted lots off the tax rolls if they can be developed. He could combine the lots and put a bigger house there, right? Unification. But the opportunity still exists for the town to look for a more natural area that's on a walking path on Old Ocean. This recent sale of the property, the DeLorean shack, which was shockingly high money the guy paid for it, but you know, he must have had a pocket full. He paid 3.4 million for the shack only, which were there's three parcels there. So the two parcels that included the duplex he purchased. The owner formed an LLC to sell those two to him. But the area to the north that abuts the natural area that the town has control over, they took it from the county, is still available. It's considered vacant land. It clearly can't be built on. There might be an opportunity where someone could approach the owner and do a conservation easement on that little lot that's next to already a publicly owned lot. So I don't know what the policy would be. How would you approach that? Would the planning and zoning approach the town commission on an idea like this? Or from what I understand, there's no clear policy in the code on how to approach public purchase property for conservation or public use. So that was my comment, because there's still an opportunity that exists.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. And it was an interesting presentation. I was there for it, and yes, it wakes you up. So I know you guys, years ago, you've had the towns had an opportunity to do some of these.
Yeah.
Well,
the chair usually of the planning and zoning would go to the commission periodically and give them a rundown of what they're doing and what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
Because otherwise nothing gets anywhere, because it's going to come back to you anyway. Any idea. So you could give them a brilliant idea and it would come back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, closing public comment. Approval of the minutes, May 19, 2026. So, all in favor? Aye. Great. Okay, a light agenda today, thankfully. Except for Christie, we're gonna push her hard today. That's your only one light. First thing is the selection of chair and vice chair for the upcoming, I think it's for the upcoming year, is that
For
correct?
this year, yes.
Yes, okay, starting the next meeting, going forward for a year, right?
So has to be done every year. We were supposed to do it last meeting, but we did not. Slipped my radar. So we can do it one of two ways. We can do it however you choose. You know, we can do it by ballots, which I have them prepared, if you choose to do that. Or if you guys are happy with the way things are, if you want to make nominations, however you want to do the voting process, we can. I do have the ballots ready if you would prefer to do it that way.
I move to nominate, Chair.
And modify that and nominate Ken Khalil as vice chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks.
All right, that was,
Clean enough. Thank you. Happy to give it over to someone if they'd like to try it for a while, though. Okay.
Well,
Yes.
congratulations, gentlemen, again.
To the nomination, I mean, Ken Khalil there as the commissioner, I was like.
Yeah.
I saw this, I looked at it at first, I thought, oh my God, Ken is leaving planning and zoning, he's going back to.
I know.
conservation.
I need to update those forms.
November 1st, 2021. So Christie, why don't we start off on the third item, discussion regarding revisions to artificial turf ordinance. And I assume you've got some updates to us from what's happening at the state level as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Christy Gott on behalf of the Town of Ocean Ridge. So, as you may recall, we had this discussion before, and we were waiting on the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to adopt its official rules on setting minimum standard for synthetic or artificial turf. So on May 19th of this year, they finally adopted the final rules, which are included in your backup. The Florida legislature, as you may recall, in 2025 passed a new statute requiring FDEP to set these minimum standards that are applicable to a single-family residential property of 1 acre or less in size. So the way the law is now is local governments are preempted from having conflicting ordinances with the FDEP new rules. And we're preempted for the single family residence properties of 1 acre or less in size. So what's proposed is to change the town's current code. And this is within the town's land development code. So that's why it stops here first. Is to update the town's artificial turf provision, which is section 66-142, and to address specifically the way the FDEP standards are applied. So for all single-family residential properties in town of 1 acre or less in size, their minimum standards for artificial turf will be consistent with FDEP standards. There's two areas in the FDEP standards that local governments have a little bit of wiggle room. It's not much. One is to set the minimum permeability for every layer of artificial turf. And so the minimum that they allow for is 10 inches per hour. And then you can set the quantifying marker for that. So currently in the town's code, it's 30 inches per hour per square yard. So what I've done in this draft is to set it at 10 inches per hour per square yard, less than the town's current standard, but based on a little bit of research I did about artificial turf, 10 inches per hour per square yard seems to be some of the standards they have out there for artificial turf in the products stuff presented by their manufacturer. The other wiggle room that local governments have is you can mandate that if you have an in-ground irrigation system and now you're going to put down artificial turf, you can require that they remove all irrigation heads and pipe cap those heads before they install the artificial turf. So I've included that as well. I have, I've just sort of done this on my own, thinking, well, we have to conform to the FDEP standards. So what this ordinance does is it conforms to those standards to the single-family residential properties of 1 acre or less in size. The other standards that the town had in place, I haven't touched those. So for all other properties, multifamily, condos, even if we have any single-family residents that are greater than 1 acre in size, they would still fall under the old standards. Now, I have no, ownership in drafting this, and it's completely a policy decision if the town wants to say, we want these FDEP minimum standards to apply for every property in town. That's one policy decision. I've kind of tried to split it down the middle and said, well, there didn't seem to be an issue with our prior standards in some regards, so let's leave those in place for what we're not preempted from. The other option would be to look at this and wait and see what other cities are going to do, because I have a feeling that other cities are going to come out and they may push some of these standards, and they may say, these are minimum standards, and we're going to stack some things on top of it and make some other definitions and some other requirements. But that's going to require the town to wait and see what others are doing. And that's really your third option. So,
Can you just paint a picture for us? So in the new state regulations, you're allowed to have, as long as you meet the permeability standard, you can have artificial turf throughout front, side, backyards.
correct. There's not a location prohibition. There's certain things that you can't do. One of the big ones, I think, for Ocean Ridge is that you can't have it in the swales. So, for a lot of properties in town, that means that you would have to, if you wanted to put artificial turf in your entire front yard, there's going to be a point in your yard where you might have to stop that artificial turf because there is a swale between the edge of your property and the right of way. So you also have to leave.
You can't put it in the right of way either, I assume.
Correct. You can't put it in the right of way. There's also an area that you're supposed to leave open around trees unless you have a certified arborist that says it's okay to go right up to the drip line of the tree. You're supposed to leave an opening for your septic tanks. So there's got to be access to your septic tanks. That's got to be, and the FDEP, you've got to install it per the manufacturer's requirements, their product approvals. Green is authorized. We don't set any prohibitions except for in our existing standards that says it has to be green. So those would still apply. But otherwise, yeah, there's no more limitation on the front yard. There's no more percentage limitation that the town currently has for those properties that the new standards are applicable to.
Which is all the properties basically. Yeah, less than that. You said there'll be a few outliers here or there,
Right,
but no, it applies to 99% of the town.
correct.
Wow. The 30 inches per hour where we have currently, there's, the state is the one saying it should be 10. Now let's drop that down to 10 per hour.
Yeah, now what the state doesn't mandate is what you quantify that on. So the way our current code reads, it's 30 inches per hour per square yard.
Yes.
So the state says it has to be a minimum of 10 inches, but you can set the quantifier. So you could make it less than a yard if you wanted to, but the brief research I did on that, it seems that everybody seems to do it by a square yard. And, Orlando might have more thoughts on this, but it seems like 30 inches seems to be, that's pretty permeable based on what I've read.
Otherwise, water should sit there.
Right,
Especially in
right.
heavy rains, et cetera, right?
Right. And,
Yeah.
and I think there was some of the literature that I read was just if you just had grass, it's not sometimes that permeable, the water
Yeah.
will actually sit on top. So, so that's pretty much it.
Hey, guys, what are you thinking?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment about removing the sprinkler heads.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who installs turf will probably do it anyway, except for maybe a sprinkler head that's aimed at bushes and off on the side. So I'm not sure whether, they might be in the grass, but it might be aimed at garden or something. So I'm not sure if we want to lately eliminate the sprinkler heads. I think, but, most all installers will just cap those things if they're not useful. That's my comment.
So do you mean like to maybe clarify that all irrigation heads utilized for irrigation of what used to exist as landscaping?
I think it's redundant. I think people are gonna like, yeah, they don't want the whole, because that head will be very visible in the passage. So I don't think it's necessary to have that restriction. That's my.
Okay. We can take that out. Okay.
I'm glad we're getting to it because I need to install it in my side yards. I replace my grass every year on my side yards. I can't get it.
That,
I just,
that is, you're 100% right. And
it's,
tell you that some of the cities are going back on the right of way and some of the cities are looking and rethinking. I know Del Rey is about, they banned the right of way. That was the thing. And the swales and all that, and they're starting to reverse it because it's starting to make more sense because nothing's growing. It looks bad.
the new stuff is
With
great.
the-
Look,
If they do the permeable,
Not great.
if they make sure it's permeable, you're gonna get the same result, no different than a paver, no different than other things, and it's better than asphalt. So, I think with your three options, I think we have more than that. We have the combination of them. And that is to pass what we need to pass today. We're not scientists. I don't profess to know the permeability and how it relates to square yards or feet or however that is concerning. But maybe we need a little bit, and I respect what your research showed, but perhaps we need an opinion as to what really is quantifiable that we should do. And so we can do both. We can pass what's presented. And then see what other communities are doing and see how the science plays out. That's what I would do.
What about regarding multifamily or larger lots?
I would leave it the way we have it. I think there's a different concern with, they're taking up more area space. It's more hard space in those properties, so having a greater permeable standard that you have to, those properties make some sense. Residential neighborhoods, you have a smaller, more confined area, so and it affects your neighbors greater. In some sense, so I think we don't have that many of those, projects going on, and I don't know if it really has that much of an impact.
It is, like some people in the audience here, we have, growing up here, we're used to seeing grass, right? And we do have areas where there's not grass. I was recently in Palm Springs and every home there has artificial turf and it looks.
they have no water.
Yeah, no. Some places have it though. Some of the gated communities have it. Some places don't, right? And I don't think it looks that great, to be honest with you. Where place I went through, I thought it didn't look natural. And, this to me is, kind of unfortunate. And I agree with you, Neil. There's certain areas where it just makes no sense, or put some rocks down or do something else because you just can't get things to grow. When you say that pass today with a modification relative to the sprinklers, is that what you're thinking? Pass this today with that, or just sit on it?
Looking for the sprinkler head.
Well, to require the existing irrigation.
Section
Yes.
B2.
If an in-ground irrigation system exists at the time, all irrigation heads shall be removed and pipe capped. The issue that is there is, I think the intent, is whether it covers, whether the artificial turf covers those heads. That really the
Mhm.
intent.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you don't have the same issue that you were referencing, which I agree with, that you sometimes you want the head to do natural, garden or something like that. So if it covers, it doesn't make sense. Why would anybody cover a sprinkler head with the artificial turf? It's just creating a mess. But anyway, I think if anything, limited to the covering over of the sprinkler head by artificial turf, I think that solves the issue.
Yeah, that, what you're saying is don't leave them in the ground.
And cover with our.
Cover them with their artificial turf. I mean,
Okay.
Yes, yes, excuse me. Yes, come on up. Yep.
Orlando Rubio, town engineer, via Craig A. Smith. For the DEP rule, yes, obviously you're gonna cap the sprinkler heads when you put out the synthetic turf. But they're referring to, because they want to, it's under the water conservation part. They want to make sure you're not watering the area. Obviously, people are gonna cap, but they want to make, because of water conservation in the DEP rule, which is, the preceding paragraph of that, where sprinkler heads are being called to be capped. That's all they're saying.
so they don't want the sprinkler heads to water the
That's-
artificial turf to keep it cleaner
Just to
when it
conserve,
dries
it's a
out.
water
and helps it
conservation
cooler.
component, yeah.
So it's also makes it cooler. Artificial turf, the negative to that is it's hotter. Because it's a petroleum-based product. So, that's the downside to it.
But these are individual, the individual homeowner makes a decision what they want to do, right? They can still have grass if they want. They can put in artificial turf if they want, right?
And the permeability, the product can perk whatever, 10 or 50 inches per square, whatever the manufacturer might tell you. But at the end of the day, you're at the mercy of the underlying soil, which could be muck. And once that soil column is saturated, you're at the mercy of the underlying soil. So you might get 10 or 30 inches per whatever, but once the column is saturated, you'll be at the mercy of whatever the ground.
Covered underneath there, right?
If you have muck, it's going to be there for a while. But that's with anything.
And you just brought up too, in Delray, they're monkeying around with this already, right? Looking at it. I do think it's important for us, as you said, to do a combination. I think we should look at what other towns are doing, right? It'd be interesting to see what they're doing, see what interesting what Palm Beach is gonna do. They have a huge number of properties in Palm Beach that are under an acre, right? And yes, Terry, we have a.
If I understand it correctly, the new standards, 30 to 10 would create more runoff of water quicker, right? It wouldn't,
Orlando,
would-
is that correct or not?
Would not.
so there'd be the same amount of, right now the code is 1 inch for an hour that you're gonna hold.
Yes.
So this is gonna hold what? More water or less?
It's regardless of what land court put down, you have to hold 1 inch regardless of what.
Okay, so it doesn't affect that
It's still 1 inch of
standard.
yeah, it's 1 inch of rainfall, which is
So you'd have to have an engineer certified that you meet that part of the
Yes.
code also.
always, that's not gonna change.
I was just worried about all the runoff going into the street and in the swale. And right now you have to stop at the swale, at the right of way, the road right of way. And in our neighborhood, it's 25 feet from the center of the road to the property line. Even though about 15 feet of it's swale, quote, swale area.
Yes.
Of course, what they do is they build a house and they get a CO and they come back in and the swale disappears.
Yeah, of course.
The other thing that the standards doesn't talk about keeping it clean in any manner. Dogs poop on this stuff. It collects garbage from wind and rain. So what's the homeowner supposed to be responsible for removing the poop and all the other stuff from that material? It's not like you can wash it down with a garden hose.
In the code.
You wash it down with a garden hose, it goes right into the street.
Yeah. fertilizer for the turf.
It's next.
Huh?
That's next.
Okay, that's an X, okay. I'm happy to pass something if you want, but I'd love to see, I'd love to hear what, and see what other towns are doing at this time. I think that'd be really, but we've asked our town to continue to monitor that, all the adjoining towns, because again, I guess, I'm sure Palm Beach is gonna be going half nuts about this, right? And there's other towns that we're gonna be going half nuts too, so Orlando.
So one more thing too is when you have new construction, some towns, in order to avoid having a lot completely full of synthetic turf and claim it as pervious ground, they only give them credit for pervious ground up to 25%. So that way, you don't have artificial turf surrounding the entire park. I don't know if that's in our code.
I don't believe so. I think we just have a percentage on how much artificial turf you can have and prohibitions on where it can be located. But yeah, that's what a lot of cities do. And I think, I think we're gonna have to wait about 6 months to see what happens because for most cities, it's a similar process to the town where there's usually, an advisory board that an ordinance goes to in this nature, and then it moves up to their governing bodies. So we could perhaps, move forward this and then come back in 6 months and give an update on what other cities are doing with this to see if we need to make some tweaks and changes.
Can we add what Orlando references about?
Well, the problem with that is it's going to be really interesting to see if cities maintain that because there's it's sort of a disconnect without getting too much into the weeds because DEP saying these are minimum standards for properties, single family properties, 1 acre or less. So that may suggest you could put some additional standards as long as you don't directly conflict with FDEP standards. So that's going to be what's really interesting to see how cities push the envelope in this area and what other things they come up with to try to put some limitations on where the artificial turf can be and, how pervasive it can be throughout the property. So, I know from our discussion previously and at the town commission level, the town's anxious to get this done because there's a lot of people in town who want to move towards the minimum standards that FDEP has made. So I think it's important for the town to move forward quickly with this, but a look back is probably needed as well.
Can we add, if we did this, could we add his provision to it? Orlando just referenced.
That's what I don't think you could do for the safest bet right now is to be conservative and follow strictly what the FDEP guidelines are, which they don't allow for you to set like a location.
No, I understand that, but if this forces you to have to make a kind of decision.
Right.
Doesn't force a location, right, Orlando? Right.
No, but yeah, it limits how much you could put on your property.
Limits
And-
how much you can claim as pervious.
That's all it does.
Yeah.
Because now, when I get that close, go to things, they have that set up. With the professional estimates. This affects it's kind of the same.
Yeah, I mean, in our current code, all artificial turf is treated as impervious. That's I'm sorry, pervious, yeah. Artificial turf shall be considered 100% pervious area. So that's currently in our code.
You're saying that we need to make some action today to be compliant?
So the way it's drafted, the way I've drafted is I've said, if you're a single family resident of 1 acre or less, you have to follow the FDEP minimum standards. Everybody else, you're subject to the existing regulations.
Putting that in place, you would be concerned with it, right?
I would be concerned
Okay.
and until we see how this really plays out with some of the other cities that I think are going to really push the envelope. I think as the chair suggested, coming back in 6 months and looking
Yeah.
at to see what everybody else is doing. By then we might also have some Florida Attorney General opinions on the issue that might give some guidance about how far you can push the minimum standards and what conflicts and doesn't conflict with them.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Passing what you presented, but for the in-ground irrigation system that should relate to what he's saying, which is we should relate to this FDP standard as opposed to just kind of out there,
Right.
which I don't have a problem with. So maybe a minor tweak in that language,
Mhm.
to reflect the fact that it's related to that standard.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep.
And then revisit it after because right now it's a feel.
Yeah.
We don't know. You know, we're talking. Um, but we're just talking to talk at this juncture with respect to that, and let's see what other standards come up that make sense. So that we have a good code. So let's get by with what we have, and I'll make a motion to that effect, with the exception of, B2, which should apply to the reference standard.
Okay, yeah.
Second.
Okay.
You?
Second, second, right?
Second,
Second, all in favor?
aye.
I will see this, there's been, as the town knows, on Marlin, there's been a resident that has had artificial turf in their yard for quite a long time. And that artificial turf has been, I don't know what the quality level was or anything else. I don't know if it meets all these criteria or not, but looks terrible. It's beaten down. It looks like worn carpet at this point, and she'll be happy. It's a place, right? I guess now she, won't be, well, outside the town's, code, but, just looks beaten down.
No, the code says that it has to be
Yeah, it's-
maintained. In fact, it's the opposite. She's,
I understand, but
We're just being the statutory, just matching up with the statutory definition.
Yeah.
That that would apply regardless, because they supersede our code.
Yeah.
So that's all we're doing is match it up and go back. But yeah, that looks awful. That is the abomination that's why people get upset with artificial turf
Turf,
codes,
yes.
and I get upset with that, but,
yes,
but there are other areas that, be tweaked that makes some sense and it has over the years since this first came down, there's certain things that have changed.
absolutely, absolutely.
Can I speak real quick?
Yeah,
I
sure.
just have a quick question for attorney. What about that situation that he's speaking about where it looks worn down? Shouldn't there be a maintenance issue that we should possibly put in there, that if we see that?
There's an existing maintenance provision in the code. And what that says is all artificial turf shall be maintained in a green, fadeless condition and shall be maintained free of dirt,
Okay.
mud, stains, weeds, blah, blah, blah. Maintenance shall include cleaning, brushing, debris removal. And per the FDEP standards, which I've sort of included here, is that it can't be loose and must be maintained per manufacturer's standards at all time, which means it's got to be sort of staked down and present, an artificial standard where it's not like bubbly and rolly like the old artificial turf of the
Yeah.
days of yore. So, yeah, so it's in
So
there.
is that code enforcement then?
No wrinkles, no wrinkles.
Code enforcement.
Good. Yeah, if they don't maintain it, yeah, why not? True.
Yeah.
Well, no, you still do. There's plenty of homes that it looks
Yeah.
like crap that they don't maintain their grass, right? Not to the extent. though.
Michelle, Michelle, you can go out and start talking to some of the residents, see what happens, okay? The next item, action item, discussion regarding revisions, to the reasonable accommodations procedures.
Okay, so this is another state mandate that came down in 2025. As you may know, in section 67-206 of the town code, we have a reasonable accommodation provision, and that's to be consistent with the Florida Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disability Act. So that if someone needs a reasonable accommodation for a disability, we have a process laid out in the code. And basically what that process is it's an application process where they apply to the town for a reasonable accommodation. It's reviewed by staff, planning and legal. And then eventually it becomes a hearing in front of the town special magistrate. The town special magistrate who does code enforcement, Minnie Bernard, is very familiar with the FHA and the ADA. And you go through that process just to make sure it's fair. And if there's any issues as to whether or not the accommodation is reasonable or not, that would play out before the special magistrate. So the mandate from the legislature in 2025 was to make it clear in our code that we have a process and procedure to approve certified recovery residents that are set forth in Florida statute, chapter 397. For certified recovery residences, they have to be licensed by the state. So what we've done is we've updated our reasonable accommodation ordinance to specifically address the certified recovery residences so that we are now consistent with state statute. You know, there wasn't a rush on this ordinance because we already had a reasonable accommodation process. And if someone came forward with a certified recovery residence, they would just go through that process. But now we specifically spell it out in our ordinance, so we are compliant with state statute.
Really only for the hotel and the multifamily rentals or single family rentals, right?
Well, so that's a really good point because since the town has a prohibition on vacation rentals, which is a rental of 30 days or less, we can require, and that's one thing I've done in this ordinance, is to make sure it's clear that one of the foundations of the town of Ocean Ridge neighborhoods is that it's not transient living. And so if a certified recovery residence or some other type of, you know, resident were to come in like that, they would have to require that the residency be more than 30 days. So what's been drafted into this ordinance is to make it clear that transient type of residency is a major change to the foundation of our neighborhoods. So if someone were saying, well, some of our recovery residents are for 10 days at a time, we would challenge that as not being reasonable based on the foundational character of our town. So we're trying to maintain that. Obviously, it's a legal issue. Currently, case law seems to suggest that you can make that argument that's not reasonable, that they would allow people to stay for less than 30 days. But if it's, you know, 30, 60, 90 days, then that's allowable. It's really the accommodation you're looking for is that you have people who are not of the same family living together in a residence based on their disability. So they want the accommodation for that.
I'll move to approve the ordinance.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It looks like you just made it qualify a little bit more. Give us more specifics on who you are, what
Exactly.
you're asking
Yep,
for
yep.
here, right? But
More specifics
Thanks,
because
so then Michelle and staff can review it to really have an understanding what's going on, right?
exactly. And then, and you can also add conditions to their approval that are specific to what they're asking.
Absolutely. Okay. Commissioner comments?
Mr. Chairman, I
Howdy.
think our next meeting is July 21st, I believe. So
Yes.
I want to take this opportunity to wish happy 250th birthday to the greatest country on earth.
There we go. Yeah,
Go.
thank you.
Should we say?
That's tough.
Ms.
That's tough to
Hoisting?
follow. Neil?
Do we have to make a motion on that?
No, you don't. Neil?
No comments. Other than, thank you for that well wishes.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I can just mention one thing, I just want y'all to be aware, you probably know what's going on with the ballot being placed on the November ballot for the constitutional amendment dealing with real property taxes. Just so you're aware, a nonprofit group and 2 former elected officials have filed a lawsuit.
Saw that.
And they're challenging whether or not the ballot title and the summary are accurate, misleading. And they're asking a court to declare that it's invalid and have the Attorney General rewrite the ballot title and summary. So that's an important issue for the town. You'll hear more about it, I'm sure. But just keep that on your radar. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer any.
What is the tax impact to Ocean Ridge calculated?
I mean, have you guys starting to, have you run some models?
Actually, the property appraiser's office has run some significant models for every town and city within Palm Beach County. Right now, it looks as though the exemption at the $250,000 rate will hit us at just under $900,000 annually. And then longer term, the impact for the non-homesteaded properties moving from a 10% cap to a 5% cap may be, you know, what we see as the larger impact long term.
And so that's something that we don't know a real number on just yet, but they've given us some models. But we can anticipate potentially a $2 million hit just in 2028.
And our total budget is again, you should
For
know.
this year, it's going to be about 20 million. But
Right.
we bring in about 10 million in revenue
2%.
based on our current valuation. Based on our current valuation for this year.
How about the county level? Do you have any idea how 900,000 day one here, what's the impact of the county? You have any idea?
Last I looked at it, and it's may have been updated since then, it was about 150 million. To Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, I think it was, which was, something that was pertaining to our conversations with Fire Rescue. In White Beach, I think the county is closer to a much larger number, like a $300 million just on year one. The number one city in the state that's being impacted based on the conference that we were able to attend is the city of Port St. Lucie, and they're going to be impacted in 2028 at just under $10 billion year one. That's the negative
But
impact.
everybody's gonna vote for hot fudge on the ice cream.
I would
That's
say
right.
for us to watch out for, the big watch out for us, impact wise within the next 3 years will be the fire contract. So right now we are contracted with the city of Boynton Beach, as you know, and very happy with the level of service. But the city of Boynton Beach is actively trying to merge its department with Palm Beach County. And with Palm Beach County having an impact as well, I believe that their intent will be to move all cities that are within their service to their current MSTU, which at this point, I believe is about 3.5 mils. So imagine what you pay now on your income, on your property taxes at a 5.4 millage rate, and then having an additional 3 point something just for fire. For this year's budget, right now, of course, as you know, the commission has not approved, it's just draft form. But I have added an additional 200,000 just to reserve, put aside for the fire contract. Because I anticipate that we'll have that impact pretty quickly. So we may actually move more to the reserve if the commission feels that's necessary. But it'll be a big jump even if they decide that they want to stay contractual with us and not move it to a millage rate right away. I think we may be able to get away with a contract for the first handful of years. But we need to determine how much we want to put aside year to year to
Who
be
does
ready.
Gulfstream's fire?
Gulfstream is Delray right now and potentially moving as well.
Okay.
They were eyeballing moving to Boynton Beach. And so since that might be stalled, they may be moving to county. Yes, and we're doing the same exercise, if you will, with our utility infrastructure with the city of Boynton Beach. They've been very receptive to having those conversations with us. So there's a lot of moving parts and everybody's trying to figure out how to survive long term. I will say this, I've said this at our one-on-ones with the commission. So let me say to you, the decisions that you all, and I know some of you have served on the commission and have served in the P&Z board for long term in the commission, but the historic decisions that this town has made are what's going to make this town be able to survive. Because the impact is much less great compared to many other towns and cities. And I think you will see big changes, which may include small towns having to unincorporate along the way, just because it won't make financial sense for them to continue. But the conservative nature that this town has operated under will be the saving grace.
Thank you. Yeah. Jerry?
Quick question about the ballot language. There's a lot of
The
stuff
address for the
out
record.
there. But are they proposing to change the 3%, Terry Brown, Harvard Drive South, the 3% cap for homesteaded property to 5% each year annually? In other words, we're capped, the grandfathered homestead folks due to the great Lawton Childs. But at 3%, but someone's saying somewhere, one of the documents I read, that they're proposing to change that to 5%. So that would,
No, it's the non-homestead.
Non-homestead.
Oh,
well,
non-homestead.
now it
Non-homestead.
is the 10,
It's at
10%.
10% now. They're
In
gonna
other words,
reduce
they're
it to
reduced,
5.
Right.
reduced down to
Yeah.
5 from 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it wouldn't affect grandfathered people who have had it from day one. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So now that you brought that up, that has a huge, profound impact
Oh, it's terrible.
on there's a lot of things going on that I think
25
people,
Times more than I pay.
people don't realize some of the impacts of these cuts and some of the impacts of this tax measure that we're all gonna approve. Because it makes sense to save $300, right? But it doesn't make sense in the long run. We can't, it's unsustainable. What is positive, I think we can remove some of the inefficiencies. It's gonna force, and we have that in our town. I'll say that right now. There's things that we enforce, there's things that we do that makes no sense, that costs this town money. And I'll be glad to examine that aspect of it, because I think we could save a lot of money and a lot of effort. Oh, yeah. There's so, well, I mean, listen, when I was involved in this town, we had a $3 million budget. And we were doing the same daggone things that we're doing now.
We're 20
So,
million now.
and so I mean, granted, it's expanded, granted, there's justification, but there's a lot of inefficiencies. I'm not faulting
Yeah,
staff.
no, yeah.
Not at all. It's some of this inefficiency is forced upon us by things that the state is telling us that we need to do, right? So some of that stuff is going to go by the wayside, hopefully. So, or at least have to be adjusted. The other thing is that I am, I'll go on the record supportive. I mean, this stuff about going to the county, we've been looking at it since I first got on the commission in '93, got involved in the variance board and the planning and zoning. That's been a topic of conversation since I've been involved in this town. And there are efficiencies that make sense that go to the county, and fire being one that's, we all want our little cocoon, but the reality is we can't afford the cocoon. And so we have to think about these other things. And we've had opportunities in the past to have that. Manalapan's been having the county for a while, and it's been very successful for them. We went to Boynton because it just made a lot more sense for us because of the interconnectivity. But if they go, I'm not going to lose sleep. The water, I tell you, you said the utility, I am in full support of the county taking over the water. Why? It takes away the local, this local conflict that has been going on for so many years about the water versus what we do, blah, 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 takes away the local politics away from it.
Like Delray Gulfstream, whatever.
Yeah, whatever little
That game
BS that's
played,
going
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And I think that is a positive. And
Plus
so,
the duplicative management structure that everything.
yeah.
There
I
is
mean-
a lot of inefficiencies. I lived in Connecticut before then, and we had one town that had 4 fire departments. Or 4 fire chiefs, and it was no incentive or no outside pressure to try to get some of these inefficiencies out. And I think this is a moment where it's not all the money's gonna come out of inefficiencies, but I think it's gonna force us to make some
Yeah,
decisions.
and as far as the small towns going by the wayside, I think there are so many, and thank you for pointing these things out about our historical, things that we've done historically to preserve that. But there are a lot of small towns, and I was on the State Board of League of Cities, and I was on the county planning and zoning. I saw a lot of this stuff, and there are a lot of small towns that have a lot of even grosser inefficiencies that through their own actions don't belong to be classified as one. They've been trying to force them out for a long period of time. You don't like to see it. You like them to control, but at the same time, they're feeding off the system as well that it impacts everybody. So from the standpoint where this might create some efficiencies, I'm all in favor, but I gotta tell you, everyone better open their eyes. It sounds good, but the economic impact is going to be huge, and it's going to be huge on cities like Boynton, on Delray, on the bigger cities. And I think, unfortunately, I'm going on a rant now. The legislation is attacking some of the cities, and I think that's but hopefully we can look beyond that, because it's going to have an impact statewide, because we still need the services. Who's going to pay for it? It's not, you know, it's like, it doesn't make sense, some of these things, too. It is political.
They're attracting all these people to come into Florida. One of the things is they're gonna chop the taxes down.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing, not efficiency at all.
I can tell you that the calls are coming in from these oceanfront residents all around that are saying they want to become homesteaded because their savings are tremendous with the anticipation that it might go to zero. I mean, you're talking about I just an unbelievable amount of money, and I don't know who's going to pay for it. Anyway,
January 1st of every year, and it's 6 months.
And just,
They change that.
I agree with almost every single thing you just said, Vice Chair. And I will just put an asterisk next to the piece of, we used to run this city or this town with $3 million, like you said. And so we do the same thing as we did then. And that might be a true statement that it looks like we're doing the same thing, but through correct statement, unfunded mandates from the state. And even every time we go for a grant, seems to cost us more and more. But you know, it
I
costs
did
more.
qualify my statement.
You did.
by saying-
And I just want to make sure that nobody out there thinks we can run this town at
No,
$3 million
can't.
because it costs more than that to run the police
you can't.
department. So,
You
you
can't.
know, unless we chop the police department in half, that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's really it. It's more than that. It's about 70%.
It's more than that.
Yeah,
And it
it's
always
about
has
70%.
been. Well, I mean, in fairness, I think there is public safety is huge, right?
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's a lot of stuff in defense of our police guys. And for a long time, we had that, and some of the former chiefs were not complying with, we wanted 3 on 3 at all times on the road. And some of the guys were not complying. I won't mention their names. They were having tough standards, but they weren't doing their job. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Our chief is great. Our staff is great. Our police are, I mean, everything is, you guys are doing a great job. Let's make sure that is clear because there's a lot of stuff going on out there and it's unbelievable. I thank them every day for the job they're doing and I fully support funding what needs to be done. But it's these other things that, like you said, that are just, I don't know, an issue. Anyway.
Okay,
All good conversation.
thank you. That's it.
That's a 3-drink conversation.
Michelle, I asked briefly, real quick, any update on the FP&L for the 3 islands?
So I reached out based on your request. And so no new updates. The last meeting that we had was March 25th and Commissioner Cassidy actually sat in on that particular meeting. And the update at that time, she said that they had all easements signed. There were 18 total locations that were selected for locations of what they call the boxes, and there were no significant issues. And so when I reached out yesterday to Amy Kemp for any updated timelines, she said she would get back to us on anything that she can provide because the commission wants to know as well.
Yes.
She said typically the next update comes when they know when the construction dates start to align. So at this point in time, nothing that I can offer.
And still think it's 2027 though? Is that still a circled timeframe?
That was the last update they gave us.
And what's going on with Comcast and the other lines, staying above ground or going below ground? as well?
Staying above ground. There's no movement, no
Wait a minute, you still
callback.
Have the polls?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
No further comments. Thank you for everyone for being here. I'd like to adjourn the June 16th, 2026 planning zoning meeting. Thank you. Yep.